They think danger announces itself. They think it comes with a hard face, a loud voice, a clenched jaw, and a presence that wants everyone in the room to feel it. They think power needs to look aggressive to be real. That is why they miss the most dangerous person standing right in front of them. The one who looks kind. The one who smiles like he has nothing to prove. The one who speaks softly, stays composed, opens the door, keeps his tone even, and never competes for attention. That man is the one they misread first. And that is exactly why he becomes the one they never forget. Because the kinder you look, the safer people feel around you. And the safer they feel, the more careless they become. They reveal too much. They test too much. They assume too much. They mistake patience for weakness. They confuse manners with surrender. They think calm means manageable. That is their first mistake. Kindness is not submission. Kindness is camouflage. It is the velvet glove hiding the blade. When you look harmless, people let you closer. They speak more freely. They confess things they would never reveal to someone they fear. They show their envy in jokes. They expose their insecurities in small comments. They leak their intentions to casual disrespect. And while they are busy underestimating you, you are not reacting emotionally. You are studying, quietly, cleanly, strategically. You do not need to intimidate. Intimidation puts people on guard. You need comfort. Comfort makes people predictable. Comfort makes them sloppy. Comfort makes them show you exactly who they are. And while they relax, you stay controlled. You stay polite. You stay steady. Because your power is not in how threatening you appear. Your power is in what happens after someone misjudges you. When they cross a line and expect you to bend, you do not explode. You do not argue. You do not plead for understanding. You simply remove access. You remove warmth. You remove privilege. Consequences arrive without noise, like a door locking behind them before they realize it is closed. That is when the truth hits them too late. The sweetest face can carry the coldest rules. So listen carefully. This is not about becoming cruel. It is about becoming impossible to handle. It is about becoming the kind of man nobody sees as a threat until they feel the cost of disrespect. And if that truth speaks to something in you, stay close to this channel, because the next lessons will sharpen that edge even further. Your kindness keeps getting misread because most people do not understand the difference between warmth and weakness. They have been trained by lazy thinking. Loud means strong, soft means fragile. That is how they see the world. So when you appear gentle, they drop their guard and start treating you like a resource, like an option, like someone who can be pushed without consequence. Watch how it happens. You reply quickly, so they assume you are always available. You forgive easily, so they assume you do not remember. You give second chances, so they assume there will never be a final one. And because you do not punish small disrespect, they increase the dose. A joke that cuts deeper, a favor that becomes an expectation, a boundary crossed by accident, just to see whether you will notice. This is not random, this is testing. People do not test those they truly respect. They test those they think they can manage. Human nature is simple here. People treat you according to the patterns you train them to expect. If your kindness has no structure, it becomes an invitation to take. If your calm has no limits, it becomes permission to invade. And the darkest part is that many of them will still think of themselves as good people while doing it. They will not call it exploitation. They will call it your personality. They will say you are just nice. That is why your kindness must evolve. It must stop being a reflex and become a choice. Kindness needs gates. Kindness needs standards. Kindness needs a price. Not a price in money, but in respect, honesty, and behavior. The moment people realize your warmth depends on how they handle you, they become careful. They become precise. They stop reaching into your life with dirty hands. So live by this rule. Never look like a problem, but always become a problem for anyone who tries to use you. Let your face stay calm. Let your voice stay low. Let your standards stay high. Let your consequences stay quiet, immediate, and unforgettable. Machiavelli understood something most decent people never want to admit. The world does not reward purity. It rewards perception. And perception is a battlefield. Everyone remembers the line about love and fear, but weak minds repeat it like a slogan. Strong minds apply it like a weapon. You do not need to walk around trying to look feared. That is what insecure men do. They posture, they puff themselves up, they threaten. Then they wonder why people challenge them openly or sabotage them in silence. Real power is quieter. Real power is when people feel safe near you, yet still hesitate to cross you because they sense something underneath your smile. They sense a rule. They sense restraint. They sense discipline, not weakness. That is where the kind appearance becomes dangerous. When you seem gentle, people are drawn in. When you remain unmovable, they learn respect. That combination is rare. It makes you difficult to label and nearly impossible to control. The lesson was never be cruel. The lesson was be effective. If your kindness makes you predictable, it becomes a leash. If your kindness makes you admired but not respected, it turns you into a comfortable target. So you change. You become warm without becoming available, polite without becoming pliable, calm without becoming passive. And when someone finally tests how much they can get away with, you do not answer with drama. You answer with consequence. You do not beg to be loved. You do not chase to be chosen. You do not perform to be understood. You let people enjoy your softness, but you never let them forget your standards. That is the upgrade. You become a man who can be liked without needing to be liked. And that is exactly what makes you dangerous in the only way that matters. Your new weapon is not aggression, it is contrast. A gentle presence, a spine made of steel. You move slower, you speak less, you react later. Speed belongs to insecure men trying to defend their ego. You are not here to defend your ego, you are here to defend your standards. When you walk into a room, you do not search for approval. You search for patterns. Who performs? Who watches? Who flatters? Who interrupts? Who wants attention? Who wants leverage? Your eyes stay calm. Your face stays soft. But your presence says one thing without ever needing to say it out loud. I am not here to be handled. Your voice stays low, clear, almost warm. Not because you are harmless, because you are in control. You do not over-explain. You do not over-apologize. You do not overshare. You let silence carry weight. Silence reveals people. A manipulator fills silence with pressure. A respectful person fills silence with clarity. You learn the difference without lifting a finger. And the moment someone tests you with small disrespect, casual entitlement, or a subtle push against your boundaries, you do not change your mood. You change their access. Your face remains soft while the rules become harder. No speech, no emotional theater, no long lecture, just a quiet withdrawal that changes the temperature in the room. That is the point. Your kindness stays visible, so you never look like the villain. Your spine stays immovable, so you never get used like a tool. This is control in its sharpest form. You can laugh and still say no. You can smile and still walk away. You can be pleasant and still end a conversation, a deal, or a relationship in an instant. And the kinder you look while doing it, the more deeply your authority burns into memory. Make that your identity. Be easy to approach and expensive to disrespect. Warm on the surface, unbreakable underneath. That is the mask. That is the weapon. The strategy is simple. Let them underestimate you. Most men try to win with force. You will win with comfort. Comfort melts masks. When you look kind, people talk more. They feel heard. They feel safe. They relax. You nod. You ask simple questions. You never rush to prove yourself. Because the moment you start performing, you hand them control over your emotions. So you do not perform. You keep your energy stable. You offer enough warmth to lower their guard, but never so much that they own your center. You agree without committing. You smile without surrendering. You compliment without worshipping. You become safe enough that people reveal themselves, careless enough that they expose what drives them. And when they think you will never make them pay for crossing a line, they show everything. They brag. They overshare. They expose what they envy, what they fear, what they desire, and what they are willing to trade to get it. You do not collect this like a gossip. You collect it like a strategist, because information is leverage, and the man who looks kind gathers it with almost no resistance. But there is a law here. You do not give access faster than it is earned. You do not reveal your plans to people who have not proven loyalty. You do not expose your weaknesses to people who have not shown responsibility. Kindness is not intimacy. Kindness is not trust. Kindness is a filter. You offer a little warmth, then you observe the response. Do they respect it, or do they grab for more? Do they reciprocate, or do they consume? This is where you stop being reactive and start becoming selective. Your kind face stays. Your open body language stays. But behind it, your inner gate becomes iron. And when people realize they cannot read you, cannot rush you, cannot guilt you, and cannot provoke you into explaining yourself, that is when the nice guy disappears. That is when the untouchable man begins to appear. Most people think boundaries need aggression because the only version they have ever seen is emotional, messy, and weak. They have seen men set limits in the middle of a storm. Loud voices, long explanations, threats, wounded speeches, endless justifications, and by the end of it, the other person has already learned the only lesson that matters. This boundary can be moved. You will not make that mistake. Your boundary must be clean, quiet, final. You say no like a man closing a door, not like a man begging to be understood. Because the real power is not in the word itself, it is in the certainty behind it. When someone asks too much from you, you do not soften your refusal with excuses. Excuses invite debate. Excuses tell people there is still space to negotiate. Excuses give manipulators something to work with. So you stop doing that. You give a sentence and then you stop. I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I won't be doing that. And then you let silence stand there like a wall. That pause matters. That pause is power. It tells them your decision is not the beginning of a conversation. It is the end of one. And here is the deeper truth. The kinder you look while you refuse, the harder it becomes for them to fight you without exposing themselves. If you stay calm, they cannot justify becoming aggressive. If you stay polite, they cannot paint you as hostile. If you stay grounded, they have nothing to grab onto. So let them meet a wall that does not insult them. It simply does not move. That is how you keep your image clean while your standards stay ruthless. And when they try the old tactics, you recognize them instantly. Guilt, urgency, flattery, confusion. After all I've done for you, you're the only one I can count on. It's really not that big of a deal. Why are you making this so difficult? These lines are not always communication. Many times they are pressure wearing a human face. You do not counterattack. You do not defend yourself in a courtroom you never agreed to enter. You do not write a speech explaining your character to people who are only listening for weaknesses. You repeat your boundary once if needed, and then you change your behavior. That is where real boundaries live. Not in words, in actions. You respond slower. You shorten your messages. You stop offering extras. You stop giving emotional labor to people who treat your energy like a public resource. You remove access to your time, your attention, your effort, your softness. Because boundaries are not speeches, boundaries are consequences. And nothing trains people faster than consequences delivered without anger. That is why this works so deeply. You do not need to look threatening. You only need to behave like a law. Warm, but not available. Helpful, but not harvestable. Kind, but never cheap. The world is full of people who can say beautiful things. Very few can say no without shaking. Become one of those men. When your refusal is calm and your yes is earned, your kindness stops being an invitation and starts becoming a privilege. And the strongest consequence of all is the one you never announce. Weak men warn. Weak men threaten. Weak men make noise because they need the other person to feel fear. Strong men need something far more important than fear. They need alignment. They need reality to teach what words never could. So you stop announcing your boundaries like a man negotiating for peace. You let life do the teaching, because consequences that arrive silently create a different kind of respect, a deeper kind, a colder kind, the kind that changes behavior, not just mood. Here is how it works. Someone disrespects you, and they expect a reaction they can manage. Anger they can twist, sadness they can soothe, an argument they can win, emotional chaos they can use against you later. But you give them none of it. Your face stays kind, your tone stays level, your words stay minimal, and then, quietly, you adjust access. You remove the privilege they mishandled. You stop giving them your fastest replies. You stop offering them first access to your time. You stop making introductions for them. You stop sharing opportunities. You stop carrying their weight socially. You stop feeding them with attention they did not know how to respect. And you do it without drama, without gossip, without public humiliation, without needing an audience to validate your strength. The room hears no fight. It only feels the temperature drop. That is the quiet punishment, not cruelty. Clarity. You are teaching people the cost of mishandling you. And because you never scream, they cannot call you unstable. Because you never insult, they cannot call you toxic. Because you never make a spectacle, they cannot hide behind your reaction. All they are left with is the truth. They lost access, they lost comfort, they lost position, and that truth stays with them longer than any argument ever could. This is the clean form of power. No mud, no chaos, no public wrestling match. You keep your hands clean and let your standards do the damage. The kinder you look while doing it, the more it unsettles them, because it does not fit the story they had about you. They wanted you weak. They wanted you emotional. They wanted proof that you could be controlled. Instead, they meet a man who stays polite while he closes doors. A man who does not hate them. A man who simply does not need them. That is what makes you dangerous. You do not punish to feel big. You punish to protect your future. You do not chase respect like a starving man. You set a price for disrespect. You do not threaten consequences. You become consequences. And if this kind of truth is the kind you came here for, then stay locked in with this channel, because most men are still too addicted to reaction to understand the value of controlled withdrawal. Now understand something else. Betrayal almost never arrives looking like betrayal. It does not enter the room dressed like a villain. It arrives small, quiet, easy to dismiss, a tiny disrespect hidden inside a joke. A boundary crossed and brushed off like nothing. A favor that slowly turns into entitlement, a tone that says more than the words themselves. That is why most people get blindsided. They only start looking for betrayal when it is already obvious. The first sign is micro-disrespect. The small interruption, the little dismissal, the delayed reply that only happens when they no longer need something from you. The second sign is guilt, not honest emotion, weaponized guilt. After all I've done for you, you've changed. You're selfish now. The third sign is forced urgency, sudden pressure to decide, pressure to commit, pressure to explain. The fourth sign is selective kindness, warm when they need something, cold when you need something. The fifth sign is boundary bargaining. They do not accept your no. They try to edit it. Just this once. Don't be so serious. Be flexible. And here is where Stoicism gives you an advantage most people will never understand. You do not confront every signal like a detective desperate to be right. You do not accuse too early. You do not become emotional just because something feels off. You simply shift from giving to observing. You reduce what you offer, and then you watch. When the supply drops, what do they reveal? Do they respect your space, or do they panic? Do they become clearer or crueler? Do they communicate with maturity, or do they escalate with pressure? That is one of the cleanest tests on earth because it uses reality, not arguments. It shows you who they are without you having to force a confession. And once you start seeing those early signs, you act early too, not with rage, with distance, quiet distance, controlled distance. You stay polite, but less reachable, warm, but less open, present, but no longer available in the same way. Because the goal is not to catch betrayal after it blooms. The goal is to stop feeding it before it grows. Your kind face stays, your calm tone stays, but your inner door locks sooner. And the moment someone realizes your kindness has a limit they cannot negotiate, they reveal exactly what they are. Either a respectful adult or a parasite searching for a softer target. That is why this must become more than a tactic. It has to become a way of living, because the kinder you look, the more rules you need. Your face will invite people to try. It will attract confessions, requests, emotional dumping, quiet envy, hidden competition. So you become rare. A man who is generous by choice, never by pressure. You stay polite, but you never become available on demand. You stay warm, but you never become easy. You become useful, but never harvestable. That is the long game. Kindness with structure. You give people a good experience of you, but you never hand them ownership of you. You can help once and still refuse the second time. You can listen deeply and still leave the moment the conversation turns manipulative. You can remain calm in conflict and still end the connection without asking for closure, without asking for permission, without needing applause for your strength. Because you do not run on emotion anymore. You run on standards, and standards are what make a kind man dangerous. This is where most people fail to understand you. They mistake your calm for tolerance. They mistake your smile for permission. And the truth is, you do understand. You understand exactly what they are doing. You see the little push, the little assumption, the little reach, the little attempt to see how far they can go before your spine appears. You just do not reward it. You do not react dramatically because drama feeds the game. You respond strategically because strategy ends the game. When someone respects you, your kindness becomes a home, stable, strong, supportive, clean. But when someone tries to use you, your kindness becomes a mirage. It disappears the moment they reach for it with the wrong hands. That contrast teaches the world how to treat you. People learn that being close to you is not about charm. It is about behavior. It is about integrity. Over time, something powerful happens. You build real alliances, quietly. Healthy people feel safe around your warmth. They trust your consistency. But unhealthy people feel disturbed by your boundaries. The moment you stop being convenient, they start calling you cold. The moment you stop overgiving, they start acting confused. The moment you stop explaining, they start inventing stories about you. Let them. Labels are what weak people use when they lose control over you. Your job is not to be liked by everyone. Your job is to become untouchable. Your job is to make sure your peace cannot be accessed through guilt. Your time cannot be stolen through pressure, and your softness cannot be exploited through familiarity. So you keep your image clean and your rules sharp. You do not chase anyone who leaves. You do not over-explain to anyone who doubts you. You do not compete for space at tables that expect you to shrink. You walk calmly, kindly, deliberately, with a quiet certainty that your time is expensive, your energy is earned, and your presence is not a public utility. And when someone finally decides to cross you, they do not meet a monster. They do not meet rage. They do not meet noise. They meet a polite man who simply removes access and allows them to sit with the emptiness they created. That is the long game. A warm face, cold standards, an unbreakable spine. Now close the circle. At the beginning, the truth was simple. The most dangerous person in the room is the one who looks kind because nobody sees him coming. But now you understand the deeper law beneath it. Your danger is not cruelty. Your danger is control. You are the man who can stay warm without becoming weak, calm without becoming passive, polite without becoming pliable. You do not need intimidation because your boundaries speak for you. You do not need endless arguments because your actions end debate. You do not need revenge because removal is enough. The moment you stop giving people access to your attention, your time, your trust, your generosity, that moment becomes the punishment. The world is full of loud predators and loud victims. You become neither. You become disciplined. You become selective. You become the kind man with rules. And rules are what separate a gentleman from a target. So from this day forward, you move differently. You stop handing out your softness like charity. You make people earn it through respect. You stop explaining yourself to manipulators who are only listening for cracks in your armor. You stop trying to be understood by people who profit from misunderstanding you. You become consistent because consistency terrifies anyone who survives by chaos. You become slow to trust because speed is where traps are built. You become calm under pressure Because pressure is how people try to force leaks out of you, and you become comfortable walking away, because a man who can leave is a man who cannot be owned. That is the final form, a warm face, an immovable spine, a presence that relaxes good people and unsettles bad ones. Not because you threaten them, but because they cannot find the handle. They cannot locate the weakness. They cannot predict what will make you bend because you stopped bending just to keep people comfortable. Now they face the truth. They either meet your standard or they lose access. And you deliver that message without hatred, without noise, without drama, only with quiet consequence. That is why this kind of power lasts. It does not burn hot and collapse. It stays cold and precise. It stays with you in every room, every conversation, every test, every negotiation, every relationship. Now your kindness is chosen. Now your warmth is guarded. Now your silence has weight. Now your calm has teeth. Now your presence carries something most people will feel before they understand it. A standard they cannot manipulate. A stillness they cannot rush. A discipline they cannot bend. So remember the phrase, soft face, hard rules. Carry it with you. Let it remind you that kindness is not an invitation. It is a privilege. And privilege must be earned. If this truth hit you the way it was meant to, then stay with this channel. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and keep walking this path, because every lesson from here should make you harder to manipulate, harder to read, and harder to read. And if you understand the code now, then hold on to it like a vow. Stay warm. Stay controlled. Stay unmovable. Let them underestimate the face, but never let them survive the lesson hidden behind it. And once you begin to live like this, something changes that other people can feel before they can explain it. You stop looking available. You stop looking easy to pressure. You stop carrying that invisible signal that tells the world you can be rushed, guilted, softened, or bent. And that shift alone changes the kind of people who approach you, the kind of energy that stays around you, and the kind of games that quietly die in your presence. Because when a man becomes emotionally unshakable, the room adjusts around him. The manipulator grows uncomfortable, the user grows impatient, the entitled grow frustrated, the disrespectful grow cautious, and the honest feel relief. That is the hidden reward most men never see at the beginning. They think boundaries are only about protection. They do not realize boundaries also become a filter. They clear the room. They expose motives. They separate those who value you from those who only valued your convenience. That is why you do not need to fear losing people when you become firmer. The wrong people were always going to leave the moment you stopped being easy to use. Let them go. Let them call you different. Let them say you changed. You did. That is the point. You are no longer available for the version of life where your patience gets mistaken for permission, where your decency gets treated like weakness, where your silence gets interpreted as surrender. Now your silence is chosen. Now your distance is deliberate. Now your kindness is measured. Now your attention is expensive. Now your peace has guards at the gate. And that is what makes you powerful. Not noise, not image, not performance. Discipline. The discipline to hold your tongue when emotion wants to speak too early. The discipline to delay your response when pressure tries to rush you. The discipline to walk away when your old self would have stayed just to avoid disappointing someone. The discipline to let people misunderstand you instead of handing them a map to your inner world. That is maturity in its sharpest form, because a weak man needs everyone to understand him. A strong man needs only to understand himself. He knows what he allows. He knows what he refuses. He knows what he rewards. He knows what he removes. And because he knows, he does not shake when tested. He does not overreact to disrespect. He does not chase after confusion. He does not beg for clearer treatment from people who already showed their hand. He sees, he decides, he acts quietly. That is the energy you carry now. Not emotional hunger, not loud dominance, not wounded pride dressed up as confidence, just control, cold, clean, undeniable control. And the more control you have over yourself, the less control anyone else can have over you. The world can only manipulate what it can move. So become harder to move, harder to provoke, harder to rush, harder to read, harder to own, not by becoming cold to everyone, by becoming clear with everyone. Good people will not fear your standards, only those who were hoping you had none. So do not apologize for the wait in your silence. Do not apologize for the pause before your answer. Do not apologize for saying less. Do not apologize for protecting your time. Do not apologize for making people qualify for the softer parts of you. That is not cruelty, that is self-respect with a spine. And the man who learns that lesson stops bleeding energy into places that never deserved it. He stops explaining himself to those committed to misunderstanding him. He stops trying to win over those who only respect what they cannot control. He stops mistaking attention for loyalty and familiarity for trust. He grows quieter, sharper, more deliberate, more exact. He stops asking, "How do I make them understand me?" and starts asking, "What have they already shown me?" That question changes everything. Because once you start reading behavior instead of listening to excuses, the fog disappears. You no longer get trapped in stories. You no longer get seduced by words that are not supported by action. You no longer mistake being chosen for being valued. You no longer confuse being needed with being respected. You begin to see with colder eyes, and colder eyes protect warm hearts. That is the balance. That is the mastery. You do not kill your kindness. You discipline it. You do not become a monster. You become a man whose goodness is no longer easy to exploit, a man whose warmth must be met correctly, a man whose peace is no longer publicly accessible, a man whose presence comforts the right people and quietly warns the wrong ones. That is why the final lesson is simple. Do not harden your face, harden your standards. Do not become louder, become clearer. Do not become more aggressive, become less negotiable. Do not waste your life trying to look dangerous. Become the kind of man people only understand after they have already misjudged you. That is enough. That is more than enough. So carry it with you from now on. In every room, in every message, in every negotiation, in every relationship, in every moment someone tries to reach past your boundaries with charm, guilt, speed, confusion, entitlement, or emotional pressure, meet it the same way every time. With calm, with precision, with a soft face and hard rules. And if this message speaks to the version of you that is done being underestimated, done being overused, done being emotionally cornered, then stay here. Subscribe to the channel. Keep walking with these lessons. Because the next level is not louder. It is colder, cleaner, and far more difficult to manipulate. Now remember this. Kindness is not surrender. Calm is not weakness. Silence is not emptiness. And a man who can stay warm while refusing to be handled becomes one of the rarest forces in the room. Let them feel safe. Let them relax. Let them assume. And then let your standards teach them what your face never had to say.